Hi, my name is Hayley Rankin, and I'm a university student that is going to be talking to you about the feminism approaches in our very own William Shakespeare's romantic comedy, Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night is believed to have been written in the early 17th century, or more precisely, 1601. At this time, in the Elizabethan period, a patriarchal system was very much in order for women of this time. Women were ruled by their fathers and husbands, and career options were limited to becoming a loyal housewife. Social mobility was not promoted, neither was individuality, and women were limited by sex and class. So when Shakespeare decided to write a play about men, women, relationships and disguise, when women characters were the main decision makers and the reason for the plot moving forward in Twelfth Night, this was a really controversial move for Shakespeare. When Viola and Sebastian become shipwrecked at sea, they become separated. Viola makes it to shore in Illyria, however Sebastian does not, and Viola believes him to be dead. Having to make it by herself in an alien land, Viola decides to make the bold decision to disguise herself as a man. By doing so, this not only increases her ability to more easily get by in a strange land, but also gives her the opportunity to experience more than what society expects of a woman. Viola manipulated society, as the Elizabethans of Shakespeare's time knew it, to have power over who she wanted to be and her destiny. This belittled the system, allowing Shakespeare to represent that a woman could also do and achieve as much as a man could successfully, and her womanly features do not prevent her from doing so. Meanwhile, Olivia mourns for her brother. However, Orsino, the Duke, yearns for the love of Olivia. However, Olivia does not love Orsino, and therefore wishes not to take his hand in marriage. Even though Olivia sees Orsino as virtuous and noble, she does not love Orsino and therefore cannot marry him, as she wishes to be loyal. Shakespeare portrays Olivia as a loyal woman who wants and desires of living up to her dreams of falling in love. She has power over her destiny and wishes to feel equal love with a partner that she chooses rather than love to be one-sided. The character of Olivia is strong and determined. She stands her ground concerning her lack of love for Orsino and is constant throughout the play, not giving in to pressures. Orsino's status does not sway her position in searching for true love. She is not ruled by social order. Viola, now known as Cesario, is sent by Orsino to tell Olivia of his love for her. To Viola's, or Cesario's shock, Olivia instead attempts to woo her. This introduces the possible homosexual plot that Shakespeare narrates. In Act 3, Scene 1, Olivia takes on the role of becoming the wooer, which is traditionally a male role. She attempts to woo the disguised Viola by praising her beauty. Although the biggest and most subversive movement of the traditional structure is the idea that Olivia is falling in love with another woman. This idea is only partially shown by Shakespeare, as Olivia is shown to have no knowledge of Viola's disguise. However, when Olivia attempts to woo Viola, she immediately concentrates on her more feminine attributes, like her angry lip. The audience can therefore read Olivia as having a small inkling of Cesario's real gender. Also, by changing her visual gender and dressing as a man, this makes Viola, and Viola alone, the only character to increase authority over every other character in the play, even her old self. Viola, or Cesario, wins over Olivia, which is what Orsino fails to do even though he is of real authoritative status. However, when Malvolio, Olivia's servant, wears yellow stockings after being humiliated by Maria, he ends up being called mad and gets locked up. Viola is able to gain authority in life by recreating herself as a man. However, Malvolio only diminishes his status when expressing femininity. However, this could be Shakespeare challenging traditional social order and humiliating the male gender. Feast also brings out the shallow nature of Olivia, as he is able to see through her motives and talk about her shallowness and how she was full of depth in her love, but rather she was attracted to her outer self. He also brings out how Olivia's mourning for her brother is just an exaggeration, shown from the exchange shared between the two when Feast first questions Olivia about, "Good Madonna, why mournest thou?" and Olivia is tricked by Feast's questioning and is caught in a trap. From hence, we can infer that Shakespeare uses a male to bring out the weaknesses in a female, and thus Twelfth Night is not a feminist play. When Sebastian returns to the play, Olivia, who believes him to be Cesario, who she loves, approaches him. She pleads for his hand in marriage, and Sebastian agrees despite the confusion. Olivia here shows that there is very little separation between Viola and her brother, even though they are of different genders, dissolving the equalities between the two. Viola and her brother are so similar that the characters cannot tell the difference. Which enters the discussion of the one-sex theory. Gender differences have to be artificially created by clothing and expectation of each gender as to what society has grown accustomed to. The clothes that Viola chooses to wear are the reason for her success of being able to live in a new land. The choice of clothing that each character decides to wear places them in a particular society role. For example, if Viola had entered as a woman, Shakespeare attempts to create the idea that she would not have been successful in creating a new life and would never have been taken seriously like her brother always was. The one-sex theory enhances the idea that men and women are actually not that different. Later on, Olivia runs into Orsino and Cesario, believing that this is the person that she has just married. After much confusion, Sebastian enters and all is explained and equilibrium is resolved. In the end, Olivia and Sebastian remain married, and Viola, with her true identity, marries Orsino too. Act 5 just shows everything being put back into order of heterosexual relationships. This is a typical action for Shakespeare, ending a play for a woman who either gets married or ends up facing a terrible death. Shakespeare has to adhere to the patriarchal society. However, it is also argued that the aim of this play is to portray women as clever and wittier than men, in which case it is shown clearly when Shakespeare gives them a voice. However, this is a disguised happy ending, as Orsino still refers to Viola as Cesario, her male name. Shakespeare never truly resolves the idea of sexuality, and by bringing up and leaving important social problems, this enables Shakespeare to leave all open for question.